The Galactic Council's judgment chamber stretched across 17 kilometers of crystal and light. 942 species had sent their representatives to witness this moment. Ambassador Vera Holloway stood alone at the center, suspended in a gravity field that made her stomach turn. She was the only human in a room filled with beings that could crush her world with a single vote. The Virillian delegation watched her, with compound eyes that could see through solid matter. The gaseous Nephilim floated in electromagnetic containers, their forms shifting with what might have been curiosity or contempt. Silicon-based crystallids hummed at frequencies that vibrated through Vera's bones. Every single one of them was staring at the small human woman who dared to represent her species before the most powerful governing body in the galaxy. High Arbiter Tonneses spoke first. His body seemed to fold in on itself, as if he existed in more dimensions than Vera could perceive. His voice did not come from any mouth, but resonated directly inside her skull. Ambassador Holloway, humanity stands accused of the gravest crime in galactic history. Your species has been charged with theft, concealment, and illegal possession of advanced spacecraft technology. Technology that predates your civilization. Technology that humans should not possess. Vera kept her face calm. 30 years of diplomatic training had prepared her for hostile negotiations. Nothing had prepared her for this. High Arbiter, she said, her voice steady despite everything. Humanity has stolen nothing. We developed our technology independently through centuries of research and sacrifice. A massive creature rose from the Vrelian section. Fleet Commander Korath stood 12 feet tall, with serrated forelimbs that clicked together like blades. His species had conquered 63 star systems before the Council stopped them. They hated humans more than any other species in the galaxy. Lies, Korath declared. We have evidence. Your kind has been hiding a fleet of spacecraft. Ships built using principles that took our greatest civilizations millions of years to discover. Ships that appeared in your possession less than 3 centuries after you crawled out of your caves. A holographic display materialized in the chamber's center. It showed an image captured from a great distance. A structure on a remote moon. An abandoned facility with a collapsed roof. And inside, visible through the damage, were ships. Human ships. Ships bearing markings from agencies that had not existed for over a century. Vera stared at the image with genuine confusion. She had never seen this facility. She had never heard of these ships. You have 30 standard cycles to explain, Thomas announced. Failure will result in planetary quarantine. Vera's blood went cold. Quarantine meant complete isolation. No trade, no communication. No access to the technologies that kept Earth alive. It would mean the slow death of everything she loved. 3 Earth months earlier, a man named Leo Vasquez had made what he thought was a terrible financial decision. He was a mechanic from Mars, not a scientist or an engineer. Just a man who understood machines the way some people understood music. He had grown up in the orbital shipyards, learning to fix anything with an engine before he learned to read properly. The property listing had caught his attention on a quiet evening. A Class 7 abandoned structure on a moon called Aldebaran 6. Former maintenance facility. Contents unknown. Starting bid, 500 galactic credits. Leo had won the auction for 612 credits, barely enough to buy dinner on most civilized worlds. The journey took 3 weeks in his battered cargo hauler. When he finally landed on the moon's surface and saw the facility, his first thought was that he had been cheated. The building was a ruin. Walls had collapsed. Atmospheric seals had failed centuries ago. Whatever power source had once kept it running had died before Leo's grandfather was born, but something made him suit up and walk inside anyway. His flashlight cut through darkness that had been undisturbed for 300 years. And as he moved deeper into the facility, Leo realized something was wrong. The architecture was not alien. The proportions were human. The corridors were laid out in patterns he recognized from old Earth designs. And the walls were covered in writing that made his heart pound. English. Simple, utilitarian English. Warning signs. Directional markers. Equipment labels. This facility was not alien at all. It was human. Leo followed the corridors until he reached the main hangar. He stopped at the entrance and forgot how to breathe. Ships. Dozens of ships, arranged in neat rows that stretched into the darkness. Ships bearing logos from agencies he had only read about in history books. NASA, ESA, CNSA, JAXA. Ships that looked impossibly advanced, their hulls gleaming with materials that should not exist. Their engines configured in ways that made no sense. And on every single one, stamped in faded letters that Leo had to wipe clean to read, were manufacturing dates. Dates from over 200 years ago. Dates from before humanity had officially developed. Faster than light travel. Leo stood, surrounded by impossible machines, and understood that he had stumbled onto the greatest secret in human history. A security system, activated with a sound like breaking glass. Red emergency lights began pulsing throughout the hangar. Leo threw himself behind the nearest ship, expecting weapons or alarms. Instead, he heard a voice. A human voice. Authorization code required for hangar access. Please identify yourself. The voice was female, calm, and utterly impossible. This facility had been without power for 3 centuries. Nothing should be working. I am Leo Vasquez, he called out, feeling foolish. I bought this place at auction. A pause. Then, initiating emergency protocol, a figure materialized in front of Leo, a holographic woman in a uniform he had never seen, bearing insignia that meant nothing to him. My name is Director Amara Cross, the figure said. If you are seeing this message, then the worst has happened. The Federation has fallen, and the ships in this facility are all that remain of humanity's greatest achievement. Leo stared at the hologram. What Federation? What are you talking about? The hologram's expression was sad. You do not know. Of course you do not know. They erased everything. And then Director Amara Cross began to tell Leo the true history of humanity. 300 years ago, humans had not been primitive newcomers struggling to reach the stars. They had been something else entirely. A thriving, advanced civilization that had developed fold space technology and temporal engine centuries. Before making contact with the Galactic Council, they had called themselves the Terran Federation. And they had made a terrible mistake. We were arrogant, the hologram explained. We thought we could handle first contact on our own terms. We encountered the Vrelians first. They attacked without warning. The Federation War lasted 40 years and killed billions. We won, barely, but the Galactic Council demanded a price for peace. We had to surrender our technology, destroy our ships, erase our history, present ourselves as primitives, just learning to walk among the stars. Leo looked at the ships around him with new understanding. These are the survivors. 47 ships, each one containing technology that would take the Council species millions of years to develop. Each one proof that humanity was never what we pretended to be. The hologram stepped closer. In exactly 72 hours, this facility's location will be automatically transmitted to every government in the galaxy. The secret cannot stay hidden forever. And sometimes, the only way forward is through the fire. She began to fade. Good luck, Leo Vasquez. Humanity's future is now in your hands. Leo stood alone in the darkness, surrounded by ships that should not exist. Holding a truth that could save his species or destroy it, he had 72 hours to decide. What to do? Leo spent 12 hours walking through the hangar, examining each ship, reading every file the holographic system could provide. The truth was more terrible than he could have imagined. 300 years ago, humanity had been a spacefaring civilization that rivaled any species in the galaxy. They had built wonders. They had reached for the stars with ambition that terrified their neighbors. And then they had agreed to forget everything. The holographic display showed him images of the old Federation. Cities on a dozen worlds. Ships that moved faster than light. Technologies that bent the laws of physics. And then the war came. The Vrelians had attacked without provocation, determined to destroy this upstart species before it could become a threat. Director Cross's recorded message explained what happened next. The war lasted 40 years. We lost billions. But we were winning. Our technology was 300 years more advanced than anything the Vrelians could field. We could have destroyed them completely. The images changed. Federation ships surrounding Vrelian homeworlds. Weapons that could crack planets. Power that could have ended an entire species. We chose mercy, the hologram continued. We offered peace instead of extinction. And that was our mistake. The Galactic Council saw what we were capable of. They feared us, not because we had weapons, but because we had chosen not to use them. A species with both power and restraint was more dangerous than any conqueror. Leo understood now why the Council had demanded such a terrible price. Humanity's potential was not a gift to the galaxy. It was a threat. The treaty required 3 things, Director Cross explained. First, we had tea. Webb spoke carefully. We declare Vasquez a rogue element, a criminal acting without sanction. Earth formally disavows his actions and surrenders all recovered technology. In exchange, the Council agrees to view this as an isolated incident rather than a species-wide conspiracy. And the truth? The modifications? The hidden history? Remains hidden. The transmissions are dismissed as fabrications. Order is restored. Everyone goes back to the way things were. Vera stared at Webb's image. You want us to pretend this never happened. I want us to survive, Ambassador. The Council has the power to quarantine Earth completely. They could cut us off from everything. Is that what you want? Billions of people dying slow deaths because one mechanic decided to play hero? She thought about it. Really thought about it. Webb was not entirely wrong. The Council had overwhelming power. If they chose to punish humanity, there was little anyone could do to stop them. But she also thought about the people she had seen on the transmissions. The hope in their faces. The fire that had been missing from human eyes for 300 years. Something had awakened in her species. Something that could not be put back to sleep. No, she said finally. No. I will not help you bury this. The truth is out. Humanity knows what was done to them. You cannot make them forget twice. Webb's expression hardened. Then you are no longer useful to this process. High Arbiter, I request that Ambassador Holloway be detained pending further investigation. Thomas's considered the request. His form shifted in ways that suggested internal conflict. The Council does not wish to escalate this situation. However, Ambassador Holloway's refusal to cooperate is concerning. She will remain on the station until a resolution is reached. Guards stepped forward, but Vera did not resist. She had expected something like this. Webb needed someone to blame, someone to sacrifice. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her afraid Dot as she was led away. She managed to send one final message through her hidden communicator. Not to Earth, not to any official channel, but to the ship that had started all of this. Leo Vasquez, this is Ambassador Holloway. You have set something in motion that cannot be stopped. But exposure is not enough. The Council has the power to crush us if they choose. You need to give humanity something to fight for. Not just anger. Not just memory. Hope. There are 46 more ships in that garage. Ships that prove what we are capable of. Bring them home. Bring them all home. Leo received the message as his ship hung in orbit above Earth. Below him, the planet was in chaos. Governments were scrambling to respond. Military forces were mobilizing. Ordinary people were demanding answers that no one could provide. He read Ambassador Holloway's words and understood that she was right. Revealing the truth was only the first step. He needed to prove that humanity was more than victims of ancient manipulation. He needed to show them what they could become. Computer, he said, plot a course back to Aldebaran 6. Course plotted. Warning. Long-range sensors detect Vrelian vessels moving toward that sector. Estimated time of arrival, 16 standard hours. Leo's blood ran cold. The Vrelians were going to destroy the evidence. They were going to eliminate the proof of human capability before anyone else could reach it. He had 16 hours to reach the garage, retrieve the ships, and bring them home. Maximum speed, Leo ordered. We have a fleet to save. The Vanguard-class courier engaged its fold space drive and vanished from Earth's solar system. Behind him, Leo left a world awakening from 3 centuries of enforced sleep. Ahead of him waited a race against time that would determine humanity's future. The Vrelians were coming. But so was Leo Vasquez, and he was not going to lose. Leo dropped out of fold space at the edge of the Aldebaran system, and immediately knew he was too late. The scanners on his ship were 3 centuries more advanced than anything in modern fleets. They showed him exactly what was waiting at his destination. 47 Vrelian warships arranged in a blockade formation around the moon. The same number as the ships hidden in the garage below. As if Fleet Commander Korath wanted to make the symbolism clear. An incoming transmission flashed on Leo's console. He accepted it and found himself looking at the Vrelian commander himself. Korath's compound eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. His serrated forelimbs clicked together like blades being sharpened. Human, you are persistent. I will give you that. Leo kept his voice steady. You are here to destroy the ships. I am here to correct a historical error. 300 years ago, my ancestors failed to exterminate your species. The Council protected you, forced us to accept a peace that left humanity alive. Korath leaned closer to the camera. I have spent my entire career working to undo that mistake. You have given me the perfect opportunity. The Council will not allow an unprovoked attack. The Council will condemn us publicly, perhaps impose minor penalties. But privately, many of them will thank us for solving their human problem. Korath's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. You are 1 ship against 47. No one is coming to save you. Leo looked at his tactical display. The Vrelian ships were heavily armed, their weapon systems already charging. His single courier vessel had no chance in a direct fight. Korath was right about that. But Leo was not thinking about fighting. He was thinking about the garage below, about the defense systems that Director Cross had mentioned in her recordings, about the soldiers who had died protecting those ships, waiting for someone to finally arrive. You are making a mistake, Leo said quietly. Am I? Leo cut the transmission and flew directly toward the moon. Directly toward the Vrelian blockade. The garage's automated systems came online the moment his ship entered transmission range. Warning lights activated throughout the facility. But they were not warnings of danger. They were signals of awakening. The collapsed sections of the outer walls began to unfold. Panels shifted. Structures rose from what had appeared to be rubble. What Leo had assumed was damage revealed itself as something else entirely. Weapon emplacements. Shield generators. point defense systems that began tracking the Vrelian ships with terrible precision. Primary defense network online, the facility's AI announced. 47 hostile vessels in range. Targeting solutions calculated. Awaiting authorization. Leo stared at his displays in amazement. The garage was not just a storage facility. It was a fortress. A military installation disguised as an abandoned maintenance bay. Armed with technology that made the Vrelian fleet look like toys. The Federation built this to protect the ships, he realized. Correct. Aldebaran 6 Defense Station was constructed to ensure survival of preserved assets until humanity was ready to reclaim them. Current threat assessment: minimal. Vrelian weapons capabilities are approximately 300 years behind station defensive systems. On the Vrelian flagship, alarm sirens began screaming. Officers shouted reports that made no sense. Energy readings that exceeded anything in their databases. Weapons systems that should not exist pointing directly at their fleet. Commander, the tactical officer stammered. The facility's defensive capabilities exceed our entire fleet by a factor of 47. Korath felt something he had not experienced in decades of warfare. Fear. How is this possible? The records were wrong, Commander. Or deliberately falsified. Leo opened a new transmission. Hello again, Fleet Commander. I have been thinking about what you said. About correcting historical errors. It seems the real error was underestimating what humans are capable of. This changes nothing, Korath snarled. Even if you prevent us from destroying the ships, you cannot move them. We can maintain this blockade indefinitely. Can you? Leo smiled. Check your long-range sensors. Tell me what you see. The tactical officer ran the scans. The color drained from his face as he processed the results. Commander, there are ships approaching from multiple vectors. Human ships. But the signatures do not match anything in our database. Leo's smile widened. Director Cross mentioned there were more facilities like this one scattered across the galaxy. She included a recall code in her message. When I activated the defense systems here, it sent that code to every other hidden cache. Icons began appearing on the tactical display. 1, 3, 7, 12. Ships emerging from fold space, converging on Aldebaran 6 from hidden locations throughout the galaxy. Ships from the old Federation, preserved for 3 centuries. Awakening at last. The Council thought they destroyed our legacy, Leo continued. They were wrong. It was sleeping. And now it is waking up. Korath calculated odds. 47 Vrelian warships against a growing fleet of Federation vessels, backed by a defensive installation that could destroy his entire force without effort. The mathematics were clear. The mathematics were impossible. This is not over, he growled. The Council will not accept this. Maybe not. But whatever happens next will be decided by negotiation, not destruction. And this time, humanity will be negotiating from something we have not had in 300 years. Leo leaned back in his chair. Strength. The Vrelian fleet held position for 6 hours, watching helplessly as more Federation ships arrived. 23 vessels in total joined the original 47. 69 ships from humanity's forgotten past now, gathered in orbit around a moon that had hidden their secret for 3 centuries. Finally, Korath gave the order to withdraw. There would be other opportunities, other ways to strike at humanity, but not today. Not against this force. Leo watched the Vrelian ships disappear into fold space. Then he began organizing the fleet for the journey home. All ships, this is Leo Vasquez. I do not know if anyone can hear me. I do not know if anyone is still listening after 300 years. But if you are, prepare for departure. We are taking these ships back to Earth. Silence stretched across the communication channels. Then, one by one, the old ships began responding. Automated systems acknowledging commands. AI cores coming fully online for the first time since the Federation fell. Acknowledged, Captain Vasquez, the lead ship replied. Fleet standing by for your orders. Leo felt the weight of what he was about to do. He was leading 69 warships back to Earth. Ships that proved humanity had once been capable of matching any species in the galaxy. Ships that would change the balance of power forever. Ambassador Holloway had asked him to bring hope. He was bringing something even better. He was bringing proof. All ships, Leo commanded, engage fold space drives. Destination, Sol System. It is time to go home. The fleet vanished from Aldebaran space, leaving behind only the empty defense station and the memories of those who had died protecting it. On Earth, people watched the skies and waited. They had seen Leo's transmissions. They knew ships were coming. They did not know how many or what they would mean. They were about to find out. The fleet arrived in Earth orbit like a constellation coming to life. 69 ships from humanity's forgotten past, gleaming against the darkness of space. People on the surface could see them without telescopes. Points of light that had not existed the day before. Proof that everything they had been told about their history was a lie. Earth. Defense Force ships fell into formation around the Federation fleet, like children finding parents they had never known. Admiral Rebecca Stone transmitted her welcome with tears in her eyes. Mr. Vasquez, I do not know what to say. When we heard about the Vrelian blockade, we thought we had lost you. Lost everything. It was never lost, Admiral. Just hidden. Waiting. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session within hours. Every delegation sent their maximum complement of representatives. Species that normally communicated through intermediaries sent physical envoys. The chamber had never been this crowded. At the center stood a delegation of 5 humans. Ambassador Vera Holloway, released from detention when it became clear that holding her would only make things worse. Admiral Rebecca Stone, representing Earth's military. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Leo's sister and an expert on genetic modification. Deputy Director Marcus Webb, present by political necessity despite everything he had done, and Leo himself, still wearing the mechanic's jumpsuit he had worn when this all began. High Arbiter Thomases spoke first. This session has been called to address an unprecedented situation. Humanity has revealed evidence of hidden history. Technology believed destroyed. Capabilities believed surrendered. The implications are significant. Fleet Commander Korath rose from his seat. The humans have been deceiving everyone for 3 centuries. They have been hiding weapons capable of defeating our greatest warships. The Council must act decisively. The Council's response must be measured, Thomases replied. We cannot make decisions based on anger. They are a threat. They have always been a threat. Vera stepped forward. We did not deceive you. We deceived ourselves. Or rather, we were made to deceive ourselves with the Council's knowledge and cooperation. Dr. Elena Vasquez continued. The genetic modifications. My team has analyzed them. They were designed to suppress aggression, ambition, curiosity, to make us docile. Someone provided that technology to our ancestors. Someone helped them modify their own species. All eyes turned to High Arbiter Thomases. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Finally, Thomases spoke. What you suggest is not entirely inaccurate. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted accusations. Several species began transmitting frantic messages to their homeworlds. The Vrelians looked ready to start shooting. Silence. Thas's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The assembled delegates fell quiet. What I am about to tell you is known to only 3 species on this council. Species that were present at the founding. species that remember what the galaxy was like before the compact. A holographic display activated, showing images of devastation on a scale that made even Korath pause. 600,000 years ago, this galaxy was ruled by a species called the Architects. They were the first to achieve interstellar travel, the first to develop fold space technology. For 300 millennia, they shaped the galaxy according to their will. Then they encountered the divergence. Beings from outside our galaxy who existed only to consume. The war lasted 10,000 years. The Architects won, but at terrible cost. What does this have to do with humanity? Webb demanded everything. In their final days, the Architects ran simulations to predict which species might one day achieve what they had achieved, and which might become a threat like the divergence. They found only one candidate with the potential for both. Thomas's looked directly at Leo, humans. Chamber went utterly still. Your species possesses a unique combination of traits: intelligence, adaptability, ambition, aggression. The Architects recognized that humanity could one day surpass even their achievements. But they also recognized that, unchecked, humanity could threaten every other species in the galaxy. So they created the Council, Leo said slowly. To manage us, to guide you. The treaty 300 years ago was not punishment. It was intervention. The genetic modifications were not suppression. They were calibration. Your ancestors agreed because they understood what they could become if left unchecked. Elena stepped forward. They agreed to cripple their descendants, to have our potential limited before we could even understand what was being taken. They agreed to ensure humanity's rise would be gradual, integrated with galactic civilization. They agreed because the alternative was what the Vrelians wanted: extinction. Leo looked around the chamber, at the Vrelians with their compound eyes, at the gaseous Nephilim, at hundreds of species who had spent centuries fearing what humanity might become. You were afraid of us, he said. That is why you demanded we change. Not because we were dangerous, but because we had the potential to be great. An ancient crystallid moved to the chamber's center. Its crystalline body pulsed with colors no one present had ever seen. There is one more thing that must be said. The Architects left more than warnings. They left a prediction. When humanity finally awakened, when the last of the modified generations passed, it would signal something greater. Not a threat. An opportunity. The crystallid turned to face Leo. The Architects believed humanity might be the species capable of finishing what they started, of finding the divergence's origin point and ensuring nothing like them ever threatens this galaxy again. They called you the Inheritors. Not because you would inherit their empire, but because you would inherit their purpose. Leo felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. Alien and human alike. I am just a mechanic, he said quietly. You are a human, and humans are never just anything. Ambassador Holloway took over. Humanity does not come here seeking war or revenge. We seek recognition, acknowledgement of what was done to us, and an end to the restrictions that have bound us for 3 centuries. And if we refuse? Another delegate asked. Then humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. We use the technology we have recovered to establish our own path. We will not seek conflict, but we will not accept subordination. Thomas has considered this. And the genetic modifications? Already being reversed, Elena answered. The process takes narrations, but we have begun. Our children will be born as humans were meant to be, complete, unmodified, free. The deliberation lasted 3 days. In the end, the Council voted to recognize humanity's restored status. Not unanimously. The Vrelians abstained, their hatred too deep for compromise. But the majority agreed that the old arrangement had failed, that humanity had earned the right to chart its own course. 1 year later, Leo stood on the observation deck of Federation Station Alpha, watching ships come and go from Earth orbit. The galaxy had not become peaceful overnight. The Vrelians still plotted revenge. Other species still feared human potential. But something had changed. Ambassador Holloway, now Secretary General of the reformed human government, joined him by the window. Intelligence reports detected anomalous signals from beyond the galactic rim, she said. Patterns matching historical records of the divergence. Leo felt a chill. How far away? Far enough that it is not immediate. Close enough that it matters. She looked at him with an expression that combined exhaustion and hope. The architects thought we might be the ones to face whatever is out there, to protect the galaxy from it. What do you think? Leo thought about everything that had brought him here. A broken-down garage. Ships that should not exist. A secret hidden for 3 centuries. People who died protecting a truth they believed would matter. He thought about the future. Not the managed, controlled future the Council had planned, but the wild, uncertain, limitless future that was now humanity's to shape. I think we spent 300 years learning to be small, learning to accept limitations, learning to be afraid of our own potential. He turned to face her, his eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. Maybe it is time we remembered how to be great again. Through the window, the fleet hung in silent formation. 69 ships from humanity's past, guardians of humanity's future. Waiting for whatever came next, the galaxy was vast. The threats were real. But for the first time in 300 years, humanity was ready. Not because they had forgotten who they were, but because they finally remembered. Oh, surrender all advanced technology. Second, we had to destroy all records of our true history. Third, we had to accept genetic modifications. Leo felt sick. Modifications? Subtle alterations to human DNA. Nothing dramatic. Just small changes that would suppress aggression, reduce ambition, limit curiosity, make us easier to manage. Our leaders agreed because they believed it was the only way to survive. So they dismantled the Federation, burned the records, made humanity forget what we had been. The hologram gestured at the ships around them. These vessels were too valuable to destroy, too dangerous to leave in Council hands. We hid them in facilities like this one, scattered across the galaxy, waiting for the day when humanity might be ready to remember. Leo thought about his own life, his restless need to understand how things worked, his inability to accept limitations, his constant drive to push beyond what was expected. The modifications did not work on everyone, Director Cross said, as if reading his thoughts. Some humans are born without the genetic changes. We called them throwbacks, people who still possess the original human drive. If you are seeing this message, Leo Vasquez, then you are one of them. He was different. He had always known he was different. Now he understood why. What am I supposed to do with this? Leo asked the empty air, but the hologram had one more revelation. In a sub-level beneath the main hangar, Leo found cryo-chambers. 43 pods, all dark, all silent. Their occupants had gone into hibernation 300 years ago, expecting to be awakened when relief arrived. The relief had never come. Power had failed decades ago. They had died in their sleep, still believing someone would find them. Leo read the last entry in their log, written by a man named Captain Julius Ward. If you are reading this, the quarantine held longer than we expected. We were supposed to be relieved after 5 years. It has been 20, and no one is coming. I am the last one awake, keeping the systems running as long as I can. Tell our families we did not abandon them. Tell humanity we kept faith until the end. Leo closed the log and stood in silence for a moment. These people had given their lives to protect a truth that most humans would never know existed. They had died believing it mattered. He would not let their sacrifice be forgotten. Leo walked to the most advanced ship in the collection. The records identified it as a Vanguard-class diplomatic courier, capable of faster-than-light travel, using technologies that modern humanity could not replicate. He pressed his palm against the hull, and the ship recognized his unmodified DNA. The airlock opened. "Hello, Captain Vasquez," the ship's AI said. "Where would you like to go?" Leo climbed inside and strapped himself into the pilot's seat. "Earth, take me home. It is time my people learned the truth." The ship lifted off from the moon's surface and engaged its full space drive. Reality bent around the vessel, and in an instant, Leo was traveling faster than any human had traveled in 300 years. Back on the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Vera Holloway was struggling to understand the accusations against her species. The evidence was clear. Human ships in an alien facility. Technology that should not exist. A secret that threatened everything humanity had built since joining the galactic community. But Vera had no answers because she genuinely did not know. The secret had been kept even from Earth's own diplomats. "You have 30 cycles," High Arbiter Tonneses reminded her. "I suggest you use them wisely." As Vera was escorted back to her quarters, she activated her emergency communicator and sent a message to Earth. Someone had to explain how these ships existed. Someone had to find out what humanity had been hiding from itself. She did not know that the answer was already on its way. A mechanic from Mars, flying an impossible ship, carrying a truth that would change everything. Leo's journey to Earth took 3 weeks. He used the time to study the ship's database, learning everything he could about the old Federation. By the time he reached Sol System, he understood that revealing this secret would not be simple. There were people who knew, people who benefited from the current arrangement, people who would do anything to keep humanity docile and controlled. He would have to be careful. But he would not be silent. The ship dropped out of fold space near Earth's moon, and immediately, alarms began sounding across the entire solar system. Every early warning system detected his arrival. Within minutes, he was surrounded by Earth Defense Force vessels. "Unidentified vessel, you are ordered to stand down and prepare for boarding. This is Admiral Rebecca Stone. You have entered restricted space." Leo opened a communication channel. "Admiral Stone, my name is Leo Vasquez. I am a human citizen, flying a human ship. I have information that affects every person on Earth." There was a long pause. Then a new voice came through the channel. A young man with cold eyes and a politician's smile appeared on Leo's screen. "Mr. Vasquez, my name is Deputy Director Marcus Webb. I oversee Earth's relationship with the Galactic Council. You have caused quite a problem." "I have discovered the truth," Leo replied. "About the Federation. About the modifications. About everything." Webb's smile did not change, but something shifted behind his eyes. "Ah, so you have found the historical records." "I was afraid of that." Leo felt ice in his veins. "You knew." "Of course I knew. A few of us have always known. Someone has to manage these things, Mr. Vasquez. Someone has to ensure the arrangement continues." "The arrangement?" "You let them alter our DNA. You let them erase our history." "I let them turn us into survivors," Webb interrupted. "The Vrelians wanted us extinct. The Council offered us a chance to live. Yes, there were compromises. But we survived. We are still here. Is that not what matters?" Leo looked at the evidence he had gathered, at the truth that had been hidden for 3 centuries. "No," he said, "survival is not enough. Not when the price is forgetting who we really are." He began transmitting Director Cross's message to every receiver on Earth. Every station in the solar system, every human being within range of his signal. The secret was finally out. The reaction on Earth was immediate. People stopped in the streets to watch their screens. Factories fell silent as workers gathered around displays. On every world where humans lived, Leo's transmission played on every available channel. They saw the ships. They saw the records. They saw evidence of a civilization that had been deliberately erased from memory. And they saw the truth about the genetic modifications, the subtle alterations that had been made to human DNA without consent. Changes designed to suppress the very qualities that had made humanity reach for the stars. The response was not uniform. Some refused to believe. They called it a hoax, an alien trick, a conspiracy theory gone wild. But others, millions of others, looked at the evidence and felt something they had not felt in generations. Anger. Deputy Director Marcus Webb stood in his office watching the chaos unfold. His carefully managed world was falling apart in real time. 3 centuries of hidden history crumbling with every passing minute. Shut down the transmission, he ordered his staff. Block the signal. Do whatever it takes. We cannot, sir. He is using Federation-era encryption. Our systems cannot even recognize it as a communication signal. Webb watched helplessly as everything he had built collapsed around him. The arrangement had worked for 300 years. Humanity had been peaceful, productive, compliant. They had been good citizens of the galactic community. And now one mechanic from Mars was destroying everything. He activated a secure channel. Get me High Arbiter Thomas's. We need to discuss containment. On the Galactic Council Station, the news spread just as quickly. Species that had spent centuries viewing humans as harmless newcomers now watched with growing alarm. The gaseous Nephilim gathered in anxious clouds, their containment fields pulsing with agitation. The crystallids hummed at frequencies that expressed ancient fear. Fleet. Commander Korath observed the transmissions with satisfaction. He had always known humans were dangerous. He had always known the peace treaty was a mistake. Now the entire galaxy could see what he had seen all along. The humans have been deceiving everyone, he announced to his delegation. They have been hiding weapons capable of defeating our greatest ships. The Council must act. The Council's response must be measured, High Arbiter Thomas's replied. We cannot make decisions based on panic. Measured? They have been preparing for war for 300 years. How much more evidence do you need? Ambassador Vera Holloway watched the transmissions from her quarters on the Council Station. She had spent her entire career believing she was helping humanity find its place among the stars. Now she understood the truth. Their place had been defined for them centuries ago. A cage built from forgotten memories and modified genes. She wept as she watched the recordings. Not from sadness, but from rage. A guard appeared at her door. Ambassador, you are being summoned. By whom? High Arbiter Thomas's. He wishes to discuss the situation. Vera composed herself and followed the guard through the station's crystalline corridors. When she arrived at the Arbiter's chambers, she found she was not alone. Webb appeared on a holographic display, his face tight with barely controlled fury. Ambassador Holloway, Thomas's began, the situation has become complex. Mr. Webb has proposed a solution that the Council